everyone and welcome. My name is Carla and today is Tuesday and I'm going to attempt to do a stitch with me. I have no idea how this is going to work out, so please bear with me. It's the first time that I'm going to try and do a stitch with me sitting comfortably in my recliner, and of course I'm not reclining, I'm sitting quite upright, but I find it's quite a comfortable place to sit and do the kind of stitching that I want to do with this one today, which is just sort of stitching in hand with my hoop. This chart is called Butterfly Port Peach, I believe it is, and the artist is Jenna, Della Grottaglia. I've got a couple of her charts. I think she's a lovely artist, and I'm working this one 1/1 full cross. I haven't brought it out in a little while. It's sort of been, put on timeout for a little bit as I focused on others, but I thought I'd give it a whirl today and put a few little stitches in just for something different, because a lot of the time when I do stitch with me's, I tend to try and get a lot more progress on the bigger charts, or you know, the ones that are just fairly new and I'm all sort of excited about. But every so often I think it's only fair to dig something out and put a few stitches in that as well. So I will bring this back into the rotation at some point. I just don't know when. That's the big question, isn't it? How do we fit them all into our rotation? I really don't know. But anyway, I'll give this a try, and I'm sorry about if camera angles don't really suit. I have tried multiple times to hitch up my phone camera in a suitable place where I can actually stitch and see my pattern keeper and be able to reach my stitching and my threads and all that jazz. Yeah, if any of you are doing stitch with me's, you'll know what I mean. It's really, really awkward. So yeah, hopefully the company will make up for it. So this chart I started doing in sort of blocks along the top, and then I decided I wanted to do 1/1 full cross. This is 25 count even weave. I've got quite a lot done. Don't think I've shown this in my update for a long time. I think it's really lovely. So I've started doing the top of the wing here, and then I went to do a bit of the center. And as I'm stitching, I want to talk a little bit about my likes and dislikes of this particular method, and or any other particular method, because I have tried, as you know, I've tried quite a few of them over the years. If you're a regular visitor to my channel, you'll know that I'm mostly a fan of either diagonal or blocks or row by row, which is my normal go-to. I'm just going to have a look here and see which. I've got my needle already threaded here, so I'm going to have a look and see. Oh, it's kind of awkward for me to find a place to put my threads while I'm doing this. Okay, I'm just going to continue with this thread, I think. So I've mostly been the type of person that likes to do 2/1 tent, and I like to do a diagonal or a block and that sort of thing. But every so often I do get tired of that. I'm not going to lie. I do get tired of doing row by row, because I like the organization. I like the neatness of it. But what I don't like is that it can become, maybe not for everybody, but certainly for a few of us, it can become pretty monotonous. So every so often we have to change it up a little bit. Right, I've got a count here. So the other night I was watching a new video. Okay, I just had to stop there for a second and reposition the camera again. I was getting lots of notifications, which wasn't ideal. No, I've lost my needle somewhere. Where are you? Okay. I have no idea what I was talking about. I think I was talking about the monotony of doing the same method for a while. And recently I was feeling a little bit tired of, I was into like really long diagonals in a lot of my whips, and I was getting really tired of just, you know, row by row by row by row by row going down. And I thought, this isn't really exciting me much at the moment. I feel like it's taking forever to get a diagonal done. And it's also just a little bit, you know, just too monotonous, So it's not that I don't like the method, it's that after a while it becomes a little bit tedious. And I feel like I need to change things up a bit, or have a break from it, or do something else. And I know some people have said to me, well, you know, you should have maybe one whip that's got diagonal and another whip that's got one over one. And I think, yeah, well, that's okay. But what if I want to work on a particular whip and I don't want to be doing the diagonal, or I don't want to be doing, you know, it all gets rather awkward. Anyway, I was I didn't really pay much attention. And then I watched a video by a floss tuber called Catkin and Lily the other night. And she posted, not the other night, but she posted recently a stitch with me. She's doing a lovely chart called Chromatic Dragon. And she posted a stitch with me. And she does a lovely job of working 1 over 1 full cross on 25 count, just like this. But she doesn't even use a hoop or anything. Now that I can't do. I can't just hold the fabric in my hand. I find it too soft. Just, you know, this is my own personal preference. This is not a statement or a fact. I personally find it too soft and difficult to get any tension. Of course, there isn't really any tension if you don't have a hoop or anything like that, or a frame. But I can stitch like this in hand. I don't have a problem with doing it like this. So, as you can see, I've already done an awful lot already in this particular method of just a little bit cross country. What some people call limited cross country, maybe, where you only do, you know, you only go a little bit away from where you're working, but not too far. Don't think I'm going to be able to put these threads back at the moment, because, which is going to be annoying, because my box doesn't balance right beside me because my camera is in the way. Lo and behold. So yeah, I don't have a problem with stitching in hand, but I need a hoop in my hand, if that makes any sense. So I watched a video and I was admiring her lovely method, and she stitches quite quickly as well. And then I said, goodness me, I want to go and do that. So I got out my sewing lady and I started doing that. And then I got out another one and I started doing that. And it really does kind of ruin your lovely neat line when you start picking, you know, putting a few stitches in that are just randomly placed around. Gosh, there's one of my cat's fluffy fluffs. My throat's dry already just from talking. I'm going to have a sip of my drink. So she really sort of got me into the mood for doing this. I don't know how long it's going to last, or even if it's going to last. Maybe at some point all the little gaps will drive me mad, which I've said before, and then I'll start trying to get it back into a diagonal. But you see, this is the fun of it. The point is that it doesn't matter, because it's just the hobby. And if you just want to do whatever you want to do, go around in circles, go around the bend, it really is up to you, and it doesn't matter what anybody says. So don't let anybody's opinion put you off whatsoever. If I say that I love 1 over 1 stitching in hand and you don't really like it, don't force yourself to like it. Don't try to like it. Don't think that you have to do it that way. You certainly don't. You can stitch however you like. Upside down, back to front, you know, it's really your choice. So at the moment, I'm quite enjoying this. Now, what I was going to say was, what I don't like about this method is, obviously, I think it's quite obvious, having to go back and fill in those tiny little gaps. And finding a way to do that and, you know, getting your thread, how to start your thread at the back and do the stitching, how to end your thread when you haven't got any blank spaces around, can be a bit tricky. But it's not too bad. And obviously, if you want to do a stitch, if you're doing a stitch here and you want to carry that, you want to do a stitch somewhere up here, you don't want to carry at the back across all the thread, all the stitches that are already done. You probably want to run it underneath a few of those stitches, that you don't have a big long thread sitting on top. So that's what a lot of people do as well. So stuff like that is just stuff you have to be aware of, and it's just a little bit more tricky than going row by row, because you've always got, if you're going row by row, you've always got blank canvas beneath you or above you if you're working upwards. So yeah, I find it's quicker, definitely. That's the trade-off, you see, because if I was doing 2/1 tent, and that was going pretty quickly, but now I'm doing full crosses. It's taking me double the time. So doing it row by row is taking even longer. So now I'm thinking, well, if I go cross country, pick up one of my cross country whips, then it's not so bad. It's not going to be as slow as doing full crosses in rows, which I think is probably the ultimate slow, right? Or can you go slower than that? I don't know. If you can, please let me know. So I'm trying not to park any threads. I've had a few parked around here, but I'm trying not to park them. Okay, I think I've got a stitch missing somewhere. This red one's getting in my way. Oh no, it's hiding under the thread. You know, sometimes if I don't bring my needle up at the back and I turn my face away, when I look back, I have no idea where I am. And I have to pull my thread a little bit to see which stitch moves, to remind myself, oh yes, I'm over here. And I've missed a stitch up here. Okay, we'll get this one done. But that's not to say, I mean, I've been stitching a while now. I know myself. I know that when I switch my method, it doesn't mean it's the be all and end all. It never means that. It means that for now, I'm switching it up a bit, and I might even continue. I certainly have continued with this one all the way from about here down. I've done in cross country, and I haven't had any desires to change that. Not really. And it is pretty confetti heavy, I have to say. This chart is pretty crazy. So if I can do it on a crazy confetti chart like this one, I can do it with any chart, right? I mean, I shouldn't be afraid. The only thing I will say is that when I've got the grid, I'm more inclined to feel comfortable going a little bit further down, although I haven't really. I mean, I'm not one that goes, some people go like, you know, whittling all the way down maybe to the bottom of the chart, and I just don't feel the need to do that. I like to stay more or less in the region, whether I have a grid or not. Obviously having a grid is better, but not everybody has one, and I have certainly watched many floss tubes with people not using a grid at all and really going for it. And I'm thinking, my goodness, if there's just one tiny little mistake in there, it just takes one stitch to be off when you do that extreme cross country. without a grid that you, I mean, I would just have to, you know, bin the whole thing and start again, because you just, it would be crazy. It would be like dropping a tub of glitter on the floor and trying to find one particular piece of it. You just have to start again. I think it would be too much for my brain to handle. I'm purposely going a little bit slower here because I'm chatting at the same time. Right, I don't think there was a stitch there, no. Okay, I'm going to go to however many stitches I can actually do in this colour, but I don't want to count wrong. So, 1, 2, 3. And I already feel like something's a bit off. I think there should be a stitch here. It's so easy to go off track if you're not really paying fullest attention. So lately I've been in a little bit of a funk, I think is what the word is, with all my whips. And again, I've been thinking, but I want to do this one and I want to do that one. I pretty much want to do all of them. And you just can't. You just cannot do all of them at the same time. And it's really hard to sort of whittle them down into, I'm just going to pick out 2. Because I don't, you know, I want to work on them all, not just for the progress, but because I enjoy working on them all. So it's really hard to say. But I kind of really want to work on them all most of the time. And I really don't have a huge amount of time. At least not as much time as I did. I think there is something wrong here. I have missed a stitch somewhere. Let me just see what I did. Because, oh no, these 2 are okay. But somewhere over here, what have I done? I thought I had done that. I thought I had missed a stitch here. You probably can't see what I'm talking about, but okay, I think we're okay. I mean, the one stitch that's off or 2 isn't going to make a huge difference. It's just, for me, I'm more worried about when I come round counting stitches around it. If I'm using them as little goalposts for counting around it and it's wrong, then everything else I do when I come back is going to be wrong. So I think, okay, I can mark some of those off. 1, 2, we're down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4. Okay, oh yes, and the other thing I was going to say about doing the cross country is that it's definitely nicer not having all the threads in your way. That's definitely a perk, because they can really drive you up the wall sometimes. Although I think when you're a long time stitcher, you do get used to handling lots of threads and just being able to manage them, I think. It just gets easier over time. But that doesn't mean that it isn't a little bit of a pain every so often. You think, oh, it's nice when you see people posting pictures and they've just got a nice clean canvas, and yours just looks like, I don't know, a scarecrow that fell into different coloured pots of paint. That's what it looks like. A bit chaotic, but some people really love the chaos. I know some of my charts are a bit chaotic with park threads, and sometimes yeah, sometimes I get like a little urge to get my scissors and just chop them all off. I think a few times I have actually grabbed a bunch and just cut them and thought, I can't stand looking at these anymore. Isn't it funny, the different moods and swings that we go through with our stitching? I find that quite amusing. Right, I don't want to, as I said, I don't want to start going too far away off the beaten track, as they say. So I'm going to come back up again. Just going to do these threads that are parked just to get them out of the way. 2, 3 down. Let's see, my counting skills have never been the best. But one of the charts that I'm doing doesn't have a grid, and I am attempting to do it like this, but I'm going to make sure that I don't do extreme going off the beaten track, because then, yeah, I will probably get into trouble if I do that at some point, even though I try to convince myself that I won't. I don't want to. See, I've got the these grid lines to guide me, which is really helpful, because if I want to check if I've done a stitch in the wrong place, I just can see whether the stitch was supposed to be on the line or off the line, that kind of thing. It's actually quite relaxing. Now, I think one of the other things is that my hand can actually get a little bit sore holding the hoop. So sometimes I might rest this on a pillow, although I don't always find that to be the most comfortable. Other things I do is I use a smaller hoop so that it's not as heavy. So I'm only working on, I think I had this Nerge frame, this Nerge hoop on my Lowry stand, which is why I was using this Nerge hoop. But for the other ones, I'm just using a smaller round hoop, which is easier to hold, but there is less, obviously, less canvas space for stitching on. And you have to probably have to move it around a bit more often. I'm going to attempt to go down here and do this stitch now, because it's close enough. So I've selected a couple of charts to be getting on with, I think, for the month of November, but that doesn't mean that I won't get the urge to dip into other things, which I think I will, probably. Like this one and maybe a couple of others. I did decide that I wanted to work on a Christmas carol, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that until December, so I can really sort of call that my Christmas stitch. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, I've got a lot of, not a huge amount of charts and whips but I do have ones that I've put away to continue with in the future, and there's other ones that I have that I put away maybe a year ago, and I still don't know if I'm ever going to go back to them. I just really haven't made that decision, and I don't think I need to make that decision in any sort of hurry. I mean, I either go back to them or I don't. It's that quite simple. But the way I keep seeing new charts and being enabled by certain people in a certain community, if you're watching, I blame you all. Although you probably will say that I'm the worst enabler. I think we're all enabling each other, to be honest. And once I see a chart I really like, it gets stuck in my head, I go to bed and start dreaming about it. It's ridiculous. I don't think that, I mean, I'm sure there's worse things you can dream about for sure, but do I really want to be dreaming about the charts? Because you'd think I never had any to work on the way I dream about them. I just don't really get that, but I do. And it's kind of like an itch that needs to be scratched. So recently we've been looking at Halloween charts, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, Halloween is my birthday. This is why I'm called a stitchy witch, because I am an actual witch. I was born on this very wonderful, spooky day. And I'm not doing any Halloween charts, I don't think. So I had to go straight away and start looking at them. And I'm still looking at them, but I don't want to start anything right now because Halloween's nearly done. And also because I don't really want to start another chart. I want to start, but I don't want to do another chart, if you know what I mean. Maybe I just want to do the first couple of 100 stitches. I don't know. I feel like my brain has just turned to mush. But never mind. It's all fun and games. Fun and games. I feel like I've not said everything about working this method. So, yeah. So the perks are nice, clean slate to work on. No hanging threads, apart from these ones that I've got up here, which are from earlier. However, I worked in all the threads that were around here, and that also makes it real, so much easier for. The other thing I was going to say was you can move from whatever area you want to. You can stitch here, you can go down here, you can go back up over here, which I find when I'm doing diagonals, I feel like I'm stuck in diagonal. I'm stuck like with a lawnmower going up and down in lines. And I can't go to any other part of the field. I just have to keep going left and right, left and right, left and right. So it's kind of like marching, like you're in the army, marching and marching and marching. So it's very soothing and relaxing, but it's also a little bit dull for me after a while. And sometimes I'm hesitant to pick something up because I think, oh my goodness, I've got such a long diagonal to finish. I started doing shorter ones, but it didn't really make a difference. And I just knew that eventually I was going to end up, coming along and changing it again. So, where is this thread on my pattern keeper? I have found you. Not too many stitches here. So with this method, when you do either limited cross country or it's definitely more exciting. You have more choices of where you want to go on the fabric. You can stay in one particular area, like I could finish the whole wing here and then move to the left, or I can finish the whole right side of this ornament, and then I can move, or I can go back and finish all this and work sort of half the top half. So there are so many more options when you're doing diagonals and things. I suppose you can switch it around a little bit, but I find that it's more limiting than this way. So that is one of the perks of this. Obviously, there are perks doing the blocks and row by row. One of them I found that I always know where I am. I don't have to make a lot of decisions. That is a good one. You don't have to make a lot of decisions about where you're going next. Sometimes I pick this up and I think, oh Lord, where will I go? Am I going to go over here? Am I going to go here, up here? And I just feel like there's too many options. That's quite a common one for me. Sometimes I feel like my head just doesn't want to make those choices. I just want to stitch. But I'm like, well, I don't really want to fill in the blanks, but I feel like I should fill in the blanks. So there's a little bit of a battle going on in my head with the thing. That can also happen. So sometimes when you're doing the row by row, you don't have that battle. You're just doing one stitch at a time, one row at a time, and you know where you are. That's the perk of that one. I'm now going two-handed while stitching in hand. What else was I going to say about it? Oh yes, and the other thing is, sometimes, like for instance, what's happened recently to a few people I know, they have lost all their charts progress because they didn't back up their progress in Pattern Keeper or whatever. And if you lose a chart, if you lose your progress in a chart like this, which has got itsy bitsy stitches done everywhere, it would be a nightmare to input those stitches all over again. But when you're doing row by row and column by column and stuff like that, it's far, far easier. But you can highlight an entire page or an entire square and just mark it off. But with this one, you're going to have to go in and do each individual little stitch and mark that off if you lose your progress. I don't fancy doing that. So what I'm going to do is, normally I do back up about once a week or once every 2 weeks maximum. Even if I haven't touched a chart at all, I back them all up because I can't remember the last time. If I just do backing up one and not the other, it just starts to get complicated and confusing. So I just back up all of them. So now coming up to the 1st of November, sorry if I bumped the camera a little bit there. Now coming up to the 1st of November, I am going to back up everything again. So, and it's more especially now that I've started doing this little cross-country way. Oh, what happened here? I'm going to back up everything so that I don't get into that trap of, if my tablet breaks, I won't be crying. Well, I'll be crying because my tablet's broken, but I won't be crying because of my charts, because I know that I can retrieve all this progress. I did have, my last tablet started to go very slowly on me, and I knew ages before it actually, well, it didn't actually break completely in the end, but it was a second-hand one for a start. And it gave me a good 3 or 4 years before I had to decide to get a new one. So I can't complain about that. But I started to see flickering, and the screen was looking a little burnt out in areas, and I thought, you know, one of these days this tablet's just going to die on me and it's really going to be awkward. So I'm going to go and buy a new one now before that happens. And, you know, just say bye-bye to it. So that's what I did. Right, where can I go now? You see, now I've got so many options. Don't have a lot of gaps to fill in. So I might go in here. Do a few black ones coming down here. Oh no, I think there was a nice little bunch up here that I could do. Just in here. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I can find a nice piece of thread. Oh lordy, I've got lots of threads that are either too long or too short. That one might be too long, but that's okay. Better too long than too short, I think, because if it's too short, you might end up not having enough. Now, I was having a bit of shoulder pain when I was working on my Lowry stand, so that's another reason why I decided to switch it up a bit and just stitch in hand. So now I don't have shoulder pain, but I've got hand pain, wrist pain instead. So there's always going to be something. Now, how was I going to start? Oh, it's got a little curly bit. I want to get rid of. Okay, so for starting, I sort of do it the same way that Kat does in her video. and I run a few stitches at the back. This is when I'm stitching in hand. I don't do this obviously when my work is on a stand. Run a few stitches on the back, and you can watch her doing this too. She does a great job of it. And I'm starting here, and then I have to look at the back and make sure I'm not pulling it through, which I often do. And I kind of put my finger there to hold it as well, very carefully. And voila, that really is it. There's a little tail at the back, but it is underneath a few stitches. Sometimes I'm a little bit brutal and I'll just pull the whole thing out, which isn't ideal. So I'm trying to be a bit more careful today, obviously. It looks fairly bright today, which is nice because we've had a few days of rain and just general thick grey cloud. I don't like the thick grey cloud. Either just be horrible or be great, but don't be sort of in between, where you get a little bit of sun and then it gets dark and then you never know which way it's going to go. Just sort of make up your mind. So we can make plans accordingly, because if you see a bit of sun in the morning, you think, oh, this is great. And out you go, you know, with your light coat and no umbrella, and then 10 minutes later a thick cloud comes along. That's quite common in Scotland, actually, I think. They do say here that you can get all 4 seasons in a day, and I totally believe that because I've seen it with my eyes. I've seen snow, sunshine, rain. I've seen it all. Obviously, no one knows what to wear when the weather's like that. Now, all these stitches inside here are all this colour. So this is all just filling in this colour. Sort of made it blocky again up here, but it doesn't matter. My threads are a little bit twisty because I took them off a bobbin and I put them into an envelope, and yeah, they're all kinked up, which isn't great. But never mind. So later on, I'm going to have to make a few more needleminders because they seem to be moving quite quickly, a lot quicker than I expected, which is great. But I was laughing the other day and saying, you know, it's kind of, you feel, it's great when they're selling, but you do kind of feel a little bit like a factory when you're sort of churning them out. But it has been fun the whole time. I think there was a couple of things I wanted to update people about. Let's see if I remember. I keep telling myself to write these things down, but I never write them down. Some questions that have been asked. And just in case people have missed the updates in my descriptions, I did have in my descriptions, oh yes, I had in my descriptions that I could, I had basically put the postage cost for up to 5 needleminders, because I had obviously weighed, and I've got a whole box of envelopes that only fit up to 5 needleminders. And if I were to put more needleminders in, that would mean having to buy bigger envelopes, and it would be more postage cost. Not that that would be a problem for people, but people up to now really have been buying mostly just between 1 and 5, which has been great for the packaging that I have. So if somebody wanted more, I just had a note there saying, let me know if you want to buy more and I'll sort something out. So what I'm going to do now is I bought bigger envelopes because somebody asked me, if somebody said they wanted to buy 8 needleminders. That's the end of my shop, guys. I have to, you know, that shelves are empty, which is great. But I was thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to fit 8 Needleminders into one envelope? And if I use 2 envelopes, and if I get, and I know how much it costs the same to have 1 Needleminder in this envelope as it is to have 5. The postage cost is the exact same because it goes by the size of the envelope, by the weight. The only thing is I can only put in 5 comfortably and be able to close it. So the postage cost is the same whether you put 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So I need a bigger envelope, obviously, to stuff more Needleminders in. So basically now, and if the lady is watching, I've taken off the description that says, message me if you want to buy more than 5. And basically, if you want to buy more than 5, just order it, no problem. I will put it into a bigger envelope and I will pay for the extra, whatever it costs on the postage. Absolutely no problem at all. Because even if it's going to be an extra, I don't know, £1 or $1 or whatever it is, if you're buying more than 5, it's certainly, you know, I don't mind paying the extra little bit of shipping cost wherever you are. It doesn't matter. So that's just the answer directed to the lady that was asking. And there was somebody else who asked a similar thing. And so, yeah, you don't have to message me if you want to buy more than 5. Just go ahead. Thank you very much. And I will pay for the extra postage. So that's the current, I think it's just easier all around. Because they are small little things and they don't weigh very much. This one is one that I made yesterday or the day before. So this is now available. Probably won't be after this video, but it's now available in the shop. So I'm going to do a few. This is not my hand-drawn item. This is a decoupage. I'm going to do a whole selection of decoupage now because I'm not finding the time to do more artwork. It takes me about a week to draw something and paint it properly. I don't have the time at the moment, so I'm doing decoupage. When I do get the time, I will draw some more, do some more artwork. It's just, guys, it's all about having time and, you know, balancing everything. There's been a lot going on. I just recently got back from my little trip. Still sort of getting back into the normal zone from that, which it was great, you know, seeing people that family members and friends. But it's tiring. Traveling is hugely tiring and my back is just really not up for it at the moment. Again, my back is really getting worse. So I just feel like I'm struggling with all of that sort of thing. But it is nice to catch up with people. So there's always something to be done. So are any of you doing any sort of Halloween charts? I'm not sort of asking you to enable me, or maybe I am asking you to enable me. I am discreetly and subtly asking you to enable me. Are you doing any Halloween charts? So let me know if you are, because the one that I have my eye on, and I'm really, really, really not, she says, going to start this anytime this year, but I really, really like it, is the Trick or Treat by, is it Randall Spangler? I think his name is Randall Spangler, the Trick or Treat. And I know a lady, floss tuber, who's been doing it for a while. I haven't seen an update from her recently, and it's Nikki Crafts, and she's doing Trick or Treat by Randall Spangler. Oh my goodness, it looks amazing. I love it. And every time I look at it, I want to be doing it. But she's got so much of it done. It's really impressive. And I know it's going to take forever to get that far. But nevertheless, I love the colours in it. And I love the haunted house. I have a particular thing for haunted houses, actually. Even though I would be petrified to go inside one, I still like the idea. See, in a moment, I'm going to have to jump from that little bit down to here. So I've got to bring my thread down at the back. So I'm wondering if it's short enough that I can just jump, or will I just cover up? I just run it under a few threads at the back. I don't know. I'll see when I get there. I'll take a look at the back and see what state it's in. It's not a perfect back by any means, so I don't know if it's going to make a huge amount of difference if I try to make it look neater at this point. Okay. This is very relaxing. And it's very, very quiet where I am. I mean, I live in the middle, bang in the middle of a city. So, a major city, and there is a road outside there, but I'm on a very top floor and I have double glazing, and you just don't hear, you just hardly hear anything with the windows shut. It's very, very, very silent, which is great. Because even though I enjoy living more in a city than I do out in the country, say, I don't like to be disturbed too much when I'm in my own home. Like, I get really sort of irritated by people screaming outside, you know, there are all sorts of things that people do in public, and they don't really have much consideration for anyone around. I don't hear any of that really, unless somebody's actually really screaming, then I will hear it, but all you hear is a little bit of road traffic. And that's how I just like having the peace and silence, which I think a lot of people say, and it's true, is quite privileged today, because it's very difficult unless you're lucky enough to live and happy enough to live in an isolated or rural area where we don't have to put up with, you know, neighbours or neighbours that are too close or majorly busy roads. Those people are quite lucky too. But to be in a major city and have a very quiet apartment is actually something else. Because I've lived in very noisy places, like noisy apartments. I've lived in noisy buildings. I've lived in... I don't think there's been many places I've lived where it hasn't been noisy, to be honest. So I was quite surprised that here, in a major city, it's relatively silent, especially in the bedroom. It's just completely dead. You don't hear a thing, which is great, because that's what you want in the bedroom, right? Because I like to go to bed and listen to soft music, and the last thing I want is to hear neighbours singing. I don't want to hear neighbours banging pots or flushing toilets or whatever it is that they do. And I know that I've heard all that before, or shouting, kids screaming. I don't feel resentment towards, you know, I mean, I've got my son, when he was small, he would scream and shout, and I wasn't apologetic about that to the neighbours. So why should they be? But it does sort of kill your sense of peace and quiet, which I do appreciate more and more as I'm getting older. I appreciate peace and quiet. It's funny because when you're fairly young, you want to go where the action is. You want to go where there's stuff happening and where you can get experience. As you get older, you appreciate more the quiet moments where you can just be with yourself and reflect and, you know, let your mind just not have any thoughts, or just sit and stitch or knit, do some crafting, which is what we all love to do. I'm kind of now wanting to put this one back in the rotation. But I think my rotation is bulging. It is bulging sideways, upwards and downwards. So please send help. Right, so now I have to jump to here. I don't think it's a very big jump. And I think this area here, oh, maybe now that I've switched it around, I'll do it. Just going to run it under. Where this butterfly is pretty crazy, because there are seriously more stitches in here, I think. Packed together, honestly, it's absolutely crazy. Just that bit there. And so I'm thinking, why am I bothering running under 3 or 4 stitches? But hey, you know, at least I'm not adding to the madness now. I'm just tucking at least one thread in. It's not going to hurt anybody. Right, so I'm just going to finish this little bit and hope to God that my device has actually recorded something, because if it hasn't, I think I will do some screaming very loudly, and I think the neighbours will complain. So I'm at a quandary with this one actually, because I don't know. Maybe I'll just go by how I feel. I feel like part of me wants to get this area done, but the other part of me wants to carry on down here. So I don't know at the moment. So maybe I'll just do a bit here, there and everywhere. We shall see. That's the beauty of doing this unlimited direction kind of method, is that you get a lot of choice. Having said that, it wouldn't surprise me entirely if next week I came on doing diagonals. At least my husband would say, yep, I'm not surprised. She cannot make up her mind for love nor money. But it's all in the name of fun, and I'm never going to take it too seriously. It definitely way low down in the serious life priority list. Stitching is way at near the bottom. It's not, I mean, it's important to me. I love doing it, and I'm very proud of what I do, and I enjoy it. But in terms of importance and priority, like in the grand scheme of things, I'm not going to cry about what method I'm doing or not doing. Let's just put it that way. I'm just going to enjoy whatever it is I do, or at least try to. I feel myself getting more and more hoarse as we go. So whatever you guys are doing for Halloween, or maybe some of you don't celebrate it, I've noticed that. Some people don't celebrate it at all. For me, it's not because it's my birthday on Halloween. I don't celebrate it as in going out trick-or-treating or anything. I think we do stuff like making a nice meal, that sort of thing. So I don't particularly do anything special for it. But we do often get a pumpkin and carve it, and, you know, just general Halloween decoration thing. I don't go overboard with that either, but maybe watch a few scary movies. Not too scary. Okay, I think I was running on ahead a bit here. I've only got to do one more stitch. And I found 28 count a little bit too difficult to do this kind of, too small to sort of do a bit of cross country with, because I was having to lean in really close. So I started Once Upon a Fairy Tale, and I've actually timed it out now because I just feel like I'm straining both physically to look at it, and I don't really get on with magnifiers very well. So I was leaning forward too much and straining, and I wasn't really enjoying it as much as I should. So that one has now gone into a different category of, I still want to do this chart. I don't want to restart it again right now, but I don't want to UFO it. So whatever category that box is, that's where it's gone. And I'll think about that one again at a later date. Right now, my focus pieces are going to be Sad Fairy. So I'm thinking I'm going to do an old one and a new one. Been thinking that for a while. And then work on those two, as well as the haed style. And unless I wake up and have a different idea over the coming week, that's where we're at. Who knows? Every day is something new. Okay, guys, so that's where I am going to stop for this session. I hope you've enjoyed spending a little bit of time with me. I know it's been a little bit awkward for me to try and stitch without having it on a stand, but I hope it's okay enough for this session. And whatever you're doing for the rest of the day and for Halloween, I hope you have a lovely time. Even if you don't celebrate it, I still hope you have a lovely day anyway. So any questions, just let me know, and I'll do my best to try and get back to you. My email address is down in the description. So yeah, thank you so much for spending the time with me this morning. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And now I'm going to put this one down for a little bit more of a sleep. So I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.